Hello, and we are live yet again. And hopefully I can figure out, because I have a new author who's supposed to co-host with me today, and it'll be his first live, so crossing fingers all goes well. Worst case, we'll just talk fantasy books and everything in between throughout this next hour. But I am going to try to see if I can get my co-host on board, crossing fingers. Let's hope this works. And we shall see how is everybody else doing this fine, balmy hot day here in the South. I live in Georgia, so right now we are experiencing the beginnings of a heat wave, where what that means, it is potentially going to reach to like the low 100s by next week, which in Georgia, that's very, very hot. But right now, let's see. I see that he's here. I don't see him on the live. But right now, like I said, in Georgia, that's extremely, extremely hot, which is very unfortunate. I know it can get hotter in poor New Orleans, where I used to live. It is already in the hundreds and getting hotter. Almost will be in the 110s. Ugh, terrifying. Okay, let's see. Well, I don't see you. I saw that you are logged on, but I don't see you on via the live platform. Okay, well, as I wait to see if he can access the live on his end, let's just start talking. I see you, Adam. Hello. I cannot see you on the live function, unfortunately. I see that you're watching mine, but I don't see you on your live platform. Hopefully that makes sense. Like I said, new author, first time, we'll see if we can get this going, and if not, yes, I see. No worries, while you're trying to figure this out, I'll just start going through some basic bookish questions for those who are logging on right now. Okay, so, drum roll, please. Let's see. Okay, so, last week I was talking with some viewers on all sorts of things via publishing and writing. I could focus more on that side of things, or geared towards the book side. So we'll just start off and see where the day goes. Okay, so, let's see. What is my favorite book and why? I guess this is a very basic question to start off with today. And so depending on the mood. But no, my favorite category of books is obscure. I like ancient epics and sagas. So I like the source material of most mythology. And if anybody has read one of my books or is interested, I base a lot of my books on... Oh, these furry books. No, not furry books. Though that would be actually a cool genre writing, depending on the reader. But I do like to write a lot of fantasy. If you see in all the background, I have some examples of some of my books. One of my series has shifters, and so people who transform into animal forms, they're called therimorphs. It's a lot of fun. But I love mythology, so a lot of my books are based on old myth. My Viking series based intimately in the Nordic universe. And so in that Nordic universe, we're dealing with the 9 realms in and around Yggdrasil, the world tree. And readers will get to experience all the realms and a plethora of all sorts of mythical beasts, beings, creatures, and the like that are from Norse mythology in particular. It's okay, Adam. Take your time. We're just going through some questions. But yeah, that's fun. And then I have a young adult series that's, again, any kind of mythological creature or being that I just in love with, I throw that one in there. So it's a free-for-all, which, being my own writer of my own multiverse, I make the rules. It's spectacular. Oh, I have a question for some of you guys out there. Okay, so the answer to what my favorite book is, it's really tough because I like the obscure stuff, as in Icelandic sagas, the Odyssey, the Iliad, stuff that most people shudder when they think about reading. So that's where my answer would be. Okay, let's see. Which book, other than my own, would I like to see turned into a movie or TV show? Well, it's It's kind of cool right now that a lot of these bigger, sweeping, epic stories are hitting the screen, as in Wheel of Time just hit there, and I will be honest, had not read Wheel of Time until the series was about to air, and then I started picking up the book, so I'm only 3 in. I think the series is, what, 12, 14, 16, somewhere around there. But that one's a fun one. But if I was trying to pick something that hasn't been turned into a series as yet, I know, I'm trying to go through. There are so many. It's hard to pick one. I'm blanking right now because I don't know which one I could pick over another. Oh no! To think about that. Maybe The Girl, the Sea, was it The Girl, the Sea Turned Back? What's the predecessor one of that one? But again, writing the Viking series, it would be kind of fun to see some of these other writers who work with Norse mythology put out, you know, a visual of their books. So, The Girl, the Sea Turns Back, and, oh, what was the predecessor? I cannot think, see? That's what happens when you don't sleep. You can't think well. But let us go to the next. Okay, so if anybody remembers the first book's name, I cannot see it. I see the blonde girl, she's holding an axe, and I cannot think of it. So I do apologize. Man, I am great at answering these questions. Where's my favorite place to read? I am a morning and night reader, and that's just because my schedule limits me to that. So my bed would be the place where I literally read the most because it's a little bit in the morning and a little bit at night. It's how I wind up and go to bed. But if I had a choice, I have a beautiful hammock swing on my balcony that I like to dream about, sitting out there with a glass of coffee and reading a book. Reality has not permitted me that. Let me see, quote, live access is needed to go live as a guest. Yes. Yes, sorry. Like I said, I had a co-host that was trying to figure this out. But yeah, the live access, not, like I said, not everybody has it yet. I think that depending on the business versus personal, it depends on maybe the number of followers, or that's why it's hard. And I was trying to make sure we can figure this out. But the live access is a little button on the bottom. It's kind of like your filming area. And if you scroll one way or the other, if you have the access to live, it'll be one of those button options. Hopefully that helps. Okay, so I found you. I've been trying to remember the names of the books. Yes, oh, thank you. And if you're curious, you can always go to follow me and go to my link in my bio because I have a lot of information on books and a bunch of other things for people who like bookish things. Cool beans. Okay, so which book villain would be the hardest to defeat? Ooh. If anybody else has an answer to chime in, this is a cool one. Okay, the hardest villain to defeat. So, hey, you're welcome. So I guess in my mind, and this is again very sad, I apologize. I did not sleep well last night, so, and I'm also very bad with names in general, so cannot think of the character's name, but the book is Inkheart, and the villain from Inkheart was a terrifying villain. I'm reading it when I was younger because he was just very manipulative and extremely psychologically cruel about how he tormented the people around him. And so that villain, I would say, would be tough. Or any villain that fights with a psychological aspect. Magic, there's potentially a counter magic. Psychological things can be hard to overcome. So I would say some kind of villain like that. So my suggestion is the villain from Inkheart. But curious if you guys have a favorite villain, what that might be. Okay, so let's see. What book protagonist would you love to talk to if he, she, or they were real? Book protagonist. Okay, I have to decide now if I want fantasy, sci-fi, fiction, non-fiction, favorite protagonist. Man, I have to like really think about these things. I think, I would either do something like Dumbledore, because just pick his brain, Something like that from Harry Potter. I like the concept of talking with someone maybe who is wiser, who's like the educator of heroes kind of concept. I think that would be pretty neat. So Dumbledore might not be a bad choice. I don't know what you think. Let me know in the comments. Okay. What is your preferred method of reading a book? And this is in reference to audiobook, paperback, hardcover, or ebooks. And if there's another form that I do not know, throw it out there. But for me, I'm a print person. I like physical copies, which I know is not necessarily fair to say because right now, until next month, my Viking series is only in ebook version through Kindle and Kindle Limited, but that is soon to change. The print bundle of the first 4 volumes of my novellas will be put out in an omnibus version next month. And then, so you'll have paperback and hardcover there. And like I said, kind of in the beginning of this, moving in the route of audiobook for all you listeners out there. So I'm very excited. I think I mentioned that at the beginning of this, maybe not. But very excited about that. And so we'll hopefully have some of that out before the end of the year. We'll see. But my favorite form, I like print. And paperback is the easiest to use for an easy read, though if it's like something like a keepsake, for me, some of those, I have some gorgeous encyclopedias, mythology. Yes, I'm a weird nerd like that. I am a writer and I write fantasy. So I do use them until their spines are getting a little frayed in the edges. But hardcover for those, because I want to keep them around as long as possible. I have never really listened to an audiobook, and I've only read 1 ebook in my life. And I do apologize to people who those are their preference. And that's why I ask you guys a lot of questions about ebooks. Well, specifically questions on audio, because that is so new and different to me. And I like to pick brains on preferences because I don't know what makes a good narrator, things that I wish I knew better or more about when it comes to audiobooks. Okay. So, what is my favorite childhood book? Chicka Chicka Boom Boom. No, there are a bunch of them. Chicka Chicka Boom Boom. I loved Where the Wild Things Are. I grew up with The Monster at the End of the Book, featuring some of the Sesame Street characters. Yes. Audiobooks can be amazing. Here you go, Adam. Do you have audiobooks of your books? That's a question for you because I want to know. And I also want to know if they are through Audible or do you go out? Because I'm always curious when authors choose their routes and why. So audiobooks, still learning so much. Okay. So yes, childhood books, there's a number of them. And I guess it depends what kind of age of childhood. I can go like way back. But Chicka Chicka Boom Boom always made me smile. And if you don't know what it is, go read it. It's a child's book. It takes only like 2 minutes. But it should make you smile. Okay. Name 1 book that you have reread several times. Ooh, wait. Pause right there. Shout out to Libby free audiobook app through which... Oh, your local library. Interesting. Okay, did not know that. I'll have to look that up after this. Remember that? Shout out to Libby, free audiobook app through your local library. Okay, because, and here's the thing that some of you may or may not know, it's a little hard for indies to get into libraries. There are lots of things they require, and right now, I don't think I meet those requirements. Right now, I'm an author exclusively through Amazon, so I don't know if I need to be wide for that, but again, more research needs to be made on my end, but that may help other authors who are trying to reach new listeners / readers in the audio version. Okay, so I had to ask a question. Oh, book that I've reread several times. So this one's been going around, I've heard TikTok by different authors recently, and for me, if it's not my own, which many authors will claim their own because it's true, we read and reread and reread our books 1,002 times, or 4,004 times, or 4,062 times, I don't know. We reread our books a lot. with those aside, it will probably be the Odyssey. Again, I'm a weirdo. I read some weird ancient stuff. Okay, apparently I don't have the life. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, okay, Adam, for you, when you do get it, let me know, because we will definitely want to chat with you at some time. And if anybody doesn't know Adam Gaffin, you should check him out. He writes, see if I remember correctly, he writes sci-fi. And if you want to go check out his books, that's great. And I will be actually hoping to talk with him in the future then. Sorry, Adam. Next time. Okay, let's see. If you had to write in any other genre, what would it be and why? Well, the easiest thing to jump from epic fantasy, I think, would either be urban fantasy. If that's too close, sci-fi. Even though I think they kind of overlap at times, that would just be easier for me to create some kind of sci-fi universe versus going something totally off the wall and doing some kind of Southern lit romance. That would be very, very, very challenging for me. If I broached into the steamy talk verse, that would be very different for me too, though, you know, the levels of change, I guess. The levels of separation from epic fantasy to some of those may not necessarily be as big as I think they are, but yeah, so those would be some ideas that if I had to broach or connect with, or try to write in a different genre, potentially may go out that way. I think I lost my train of thought. There I go. Tired. Okay, so name one of my favorite authors. See, this is now going to be a tricky answer because now I'm meeting a lot of authors through this platform and have been able to have the fortune of being able to chat with a number of them. I've been meeting some virtually in other platforms as well, so trying to pick one is kind of sneaky and mean. Let's see. Okay. Again, my favorite books are ancient epics, so they don't really have dedicated authors outside of Homer, you know, Odyssey, Iliad. But with that said, there are trying to think if I could pick. I could pick something a little more modern. Some of the authors that I do really enjoy and I think have made such a big impact, especially to the epic fantasy area of literature, would be some of the heavy hitters. Tolkien, G.R. Martin, Robert Jordan, now that I'm starting to read him, I would put him on that list as well. So, you know, those are some. J.K. Rowling, another one. That's a great choice. And all of them are connected because all of them go back to mythology sources or mythological sources and for their inspiration in many ways. So I think that's really kind of cool. And that's kind of what I like to do, is go back to the source and re-expose people to creatures, beings, concepts that have been in ancient epics and world mythologies centuries, who knows how many years earlier, but find a way to kind of repurpose them for the modern reader. So I do like authors like those. Okay, what is one book that is currently on my TBR list? Okay, so I have a number. I don't even know where to start. Right now, I'm trying to figure out what's next, and there are so many choices and ways I can go, so let me know. Circe. Some of these that I know are popular on TikTok. Circe's one, and the Counterpoint, Song of Achilles, by the same author. Both of those I've yet to read, and I know a lot of people are into those retellings of fantasy lore, mythology, etc., so on. So obviously I got those a little while ago, and they're slowly making their way to the top of my to-be-read pile. The Forest of Vanity and Valor by a TikTok author here, A.P. Beswick. That one's kind of getting close, and again, that goes back into another retelling category, though I could totally swing a different way and read something off the wall, because I do like to do that too, and go back to my ancient sagas, Icelandic sagas, and bury myself in Nordic stuff. Okay, so let's see. Do you ever just cover yourself? No. Okay. And let's see. Okay. Back to the questions. Okay, do you prefer to read series or independent novels? Okay, so I'm a series reader predominantly, but it's not necessarily, I don't have to read in series. I kind of, probably 60-40. I do like and enjoy series if I'm immersing myself into a new world or characters, and some of the more modern fantasy. I like following characters as they progress throughout different, not just the chapters, but books, etc., so on. But I'm totally fine if for a standalone independent epic, I just feel like they have to take a little bit more energy to make sure all the characters are very well developed, vibrant, everything's tied up in a little bow, versus something where you can kind of draw out some storylines, plot lines, development throughout the series. The issue with single novels is authors have a tendency not to finish the story. I always want to know more. Yeah, no, I do agree with that, Adam. Again, kind of that whole tied up in a little bow, there are people who are novel writers, novelists, and do a superb job. And then there are people who, like me, who like to change characters over time, and maybe one story arc, you need a character in one mindset, but 4 or 5 stories or books or novellas down the line needs to have this like big change in personality or big reveal in backstory to move the story along. Yeah, okay, see, so Adam Gaffin is also a series writer, so there you go. But yeah, no, I've only written in series personally. I enjoy it. I am a long-winded storyteller. So if you hear me talk, sometimes I drag even the answers out. It's just the way I am. I like to express things certain ways. Anyhow, series makes sense to me. I do want to challenge myself to write a standalone at some point. I've mentioned this a couple times, I think on different lives, that I have a story I'm working in the background. It is a retelling, in a way, I guess. And it will also be a challenge for me, not only because it'll be a standalone, but because it'll be, if I do it, writing with multiple perspectives. So I have 3 main characters potentially in that one, and so I'll be writing not only multiple perspectives, but also different genders, which I've never done before because all my main series so far, the main character is female, though my darker fantasies, the majority of the characters are male. Interesting. Anywho, let's go axe throwing together. Hey, yo, I have my throwing axe on that wall. I'm ready. No, I do love axe throwing. Actually, writing fantasy, it's one of those funny things where it's like, you write what you know. And one of my series, The Jet Chronicles, was inspired by the multiverse developed from my sister and myself when we were playing as children in our imaginary place. So there are alter egos, Katie of Earth, Katharine, not that hard to kind of figure out. But with that said, the main character there has to earn 12 special items that represents her status as the Jed, the potential savior of the universe. And when I was a child coming up with this concept idea, I, wanted to be my actual alter ego and really, really tried to learn everything I could that she was potentially learning in my games, and thus the storyline that I was developing at the time. So when I was growing up, got into shooting archery, because that was one of her items, was the bow and arrows. And did very, very, very well, and had to retire that when I went to college, and should probably pick that back up. But yes, anything with, I love archery, love axe throwing. I'm hoping to, later this summer, start taking some swordsmanship classes, because I love medieval swords. Fencing is great. Fencing is an interesting sport. It's very formal. There's a beauty to it, but I want to learn medieval swordsmanship. That's my jam. Okay. My series, all my MCs are female. Interesting. Okay. So here's a good counter question. I'm an author, identify as female. My main characters are female at the moment. I'm going to change that as I start broaching into some other series. For me, that's easier to do because it's that concept, write what you know. So it was a comfort space of starting off with characters of my own gender orientation and to go from there. Now, with that said, there are some great authors who write books that are the opposite gender or some other kind of species in and among itself. So it's always interesting to me to talk to someone who comes from a flip perspective, because I have not dared broach that. I think I'm a little afraid. I should get over that fear and just try, I guess. But it is always interesting, so always like to know that other authors are trying to write characters from different, and wondering why. Why is that your approach? For me, again, it's a comfort thing. It just made sense to me. Plus, at the time, way back in the day when I was growing up, there weren't a lot of books with these strong women. That has changed dramatically now. But growing up, most of these kind of iconic, especially in the fantasy realm, were male forward. So I, young wannabe writer as I was, wanted to write some very powerful, strong female characters. And so that's why I broached it, or I began the writing process that way with those particular characters. Now, my Shifter series, which was my debut series, the main character, Ueva Kargan, is a therimorph. She is a shapeshifter. That's the name I've given that race of being. And that was fun because she was not necessarily human, so I got to kind of get into a mindset of a character who is not necessarily human. She's more than. Being an animal shifter, she actually turns into a white tigress in the series. And so in developing the therimorph shifter species, I kind of mushed together, middled together, fused. That's the word I want, fused together. That whatever animal has to mesh with the person's not just physical characteristics, but core personality traits. So my main character, she is athletic, she's a fiery personality, she's a little quick to anger, which causes her some problems along the way, and she is a white tigress. One of the other characters from the first book, he's a young boy, very talkative, has buck teeth, ruddy hair, super inquisitive, and he's a red squirrel. So it kind of meshes with like personality traits, which was fun. Plus having a background in animal psychology and training and etc. so on, it was fun to utilize some of that material that I had studied over the years and incorporate that into writing animal beings. Okay, writing from that perspective and being a strong female protagonist, or kick-ass heroines, sorry about the word out loud, they tended to attract the same... Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, that's cool. I mean, I like strong female protagonists. It would draw me in, right now, I'm that biased. I do like to, when I pick up a fantasy, I tend to like whenever there is a strong female in there. It doesn't have to be the only one. It doesn't have to necessarily be the primary character. But if you have that warrior archetype female in there, yo, I love that. My Viking series, my main character, and that one, I challenged myself to write someone who is meek, who has huge self-doubt, who doesn't believe in herself, is very important and will evolve along the way throughout the series, but starts off this very mild-mannered character, but that woman warrior archetype that I really wanted to embed in there. I got to create Herver, a shield maiden, and my main character, Leaf's oldest sibling. And so through her, I'm having a lot of fun because, man, I love her. And especially that concept of a woman warrior who, by all rights, should be equal to like the best men of society, but because she's female in a male patriarchal society, she has a glass ceiling she hits, and every time she hits it, it just makes her crazy. But, there's that struggle, I guess, that some people feel, some more than others about that gender divide, and so I gotta express that a lot through her, so that's kind of fun. Let's see. What am I... Yes. Okay, one of my favorite scenes I wrote, I had a sword fight on a starship. Yes! Yes! Okay, and it made sense. Okay, see, I like that. See, I don't know. Why can't sci-fi utilize more swords or bows and arrows? Why not? I think that's really cool. See? Okay. Which book of that, may I know what series and what book that's from? Because I'll probably have to put that on my wish list, which I'm utilizing as my TBR list as well, because there are so many books I'm learning about through this platform that I will forget, and if I don't put them on the wish list, I won't remember, and it's a sad truth. Okay. In the middle of the mutiny, all the hand weapons were gone. Okay. See, that kind of reminds me, I don't know if they were ever books. They may have been, but Enter the Badlands? There was a TV series, Enter the Badlands. I don't know if it was a book series before the TV show, but that concept was really cool. Futuristic, post-apocalyptic society, and everybody pretty much has gone back to martial art fighting because guns has ceased to be, which is... I love that concept. So, okay, so, sword fighting in space. If you're interested, that is in Adam Gaffin's The Martian Gambit, one of the stories in the Into the Black. So you can probably find that through him, and I'm saying that aloud because when this is over, I will re-upload this on my YouTube video platform in the next couple weeks, and then anybody there can kind of use it as a reference, but it's audio reference. Okay. So, back to some basic questions. Let's see. Do I prefer... Oh, sorry, that was the one I just answered 15 minutes ago. If you could live in any book world, what would it be? There were so many good ones. I mean, being a Nordophile myself, someone who loves Norse things or all things Nordic, I mean, Lord of the Rings is so heavily inspired by Nordic mythology. I would enjoy it just because I would. It makes sense. Harry Potter would be fun though too. Unfortunately, I would probably be a Muggle. And I'd probably be slotted in the house that's not the one I keep thinking I'm going to be house. I claim Slytherin. Who knows? I've never tested. I don't know. But, yes, if I had to live in a book world, I feel good, pretty good about Lord of the Rings. I do. Hobbit, all that kind of jazz. Okay. So Middle Earth. Let's see. Villain, hero, or show-stealing side character, which would you be? I love villains, but I don't think I personally could pull off a good villain. I do love me some villains, but if I had to be something, I don't know. I kind of want to. I want to pick anti-hero. I feel like that. I think that would be the most fun to be. Knowing my personality, I would unfortunately probably be the side character. Maybe not even a show-stopping one. I'm just the one that talks a lot on the side. But if I had a choice, I would probably choose, yeah, an anti-hero sorts. I could maybe pull one off, maybe. We're authors. We're natural villains. We pull all the strings. That is so true. Going back to Inkheart, if anybody has read, I think it was a trilogy, I only read the first book, I will admit, and that is a sad truth. My sister loved it though, she swears by it. Anywho, in that series, maybe spoiler alert, I don't think so, the concept of that magic system is there are people who can read out characters of books into reality, which is kind of cool. And learning about this concept of characters coming out into the real world and all this, you find out that authors have the cool gift, which is kind of true if you ever talk to an author, that there's so much information, so much backstory, so much an author knows about their book that never enters the pages, that the characters essentially will live beyond, before and after, you know, the book in many ways, which I just makes me shiver thinking about things, but that's kind of cool. And the sad thing is, if if we're dealing with a reality where characters in books exist in their own reality, and I then am this supreme being that writes their future, like a Norn of Norse myth or the fates of Greco-Roman, I feel a little bad because I can be very cruel to my characters. I write some dark fantasy stuff for some of my series, and I do feel bad about what I've done to some of my poor characters. So maybe I am a villain. Okay, let's see. Ooh, let me see if I can pronounce this correctly. Heinlein? Heinlein? Oh, and no, I'm butchering that. Had a multiverse, where the worlds we create in writing become real in alternate universes. See, that's cool. And terrifying because if I'm writing someone else's universe, is someone else writing my own? Some fantasy of philosophical stuff? Metaverse? I don't know. Am I hitting on the nose? But yes, yeah, maybe I am a villain. I do have poor characters. So sorry. I am definitely an author who, my young adult adventure fantasy, it's a portal fantasy, it's very fun. Though I can't guarantee 100% people survive, a lot do, which is great. My dark fantasies, not the case. So, pre-warn people, if you don't like risking your main character, sorry. Okay, let's see. One of his books, okay, so going back to the concept of where writing becomes real in alternate universes, one of his books, the MCUs travel across some of them, into Burroughs' Mars, into Wizard of Wizard of Oz, Burroughs' Mars, Doctors Doc Smith's Lensman universe. Okay, so that's kind of cool. You're bouncing between different book universes. Again, a terrifying thought, because depending on what book you fall in, that might not be so good. You know, some of these post-apocalyptic writers out there, I'm not sure I would survive. The zombie apocalypse, I feel pretty confident if I fell into a zombie apocalypse. I always tell people that I am training for the zombie apocalypse. That's the archery, the axe throwing, the mead making, sword fighting, hopefully in the near future, the basic survival, healing skills, you know, all that. Zombie apocalypse, I'm confident. If I fell into another book, though, depending on what was going on, that might not be the case. So, yeah, very good read. I'll have to go look that book up. But yeah, I don't know about falling into just random books, universes. Again, not feeling confident that I'm a main character kind of person. I probably won't survive. I'm going to be that red shirt from, like, Star Wars. Be the first to go. Or the blonde in some stereotypical old-fashioned horror movies, the first one to go. That would be my luck. And it would be something where I think I'm going to do something epic, and then twist my ankle on a pothole first step or something dumb like that. Yeah. 2 books, actually 2 versions. The Pursuit of the Pankira. See, again, hopefully I'm pronouncing things correctly. I feel very bad if I mess it up, but okay. Let's see, I think I have a couple more potential questions. Do you own any interesting bookish memorabilia, clothes? Yes, I do. If you have seen some of my videos, I am acquiring, slowly, a collection of bookish humor, author humor t-shirts. I love author humor t-shirts. Probably have close to a half dozen. I also have like other odd things like hats and scarves and pins and, you know, I do like that kind of stuff. One of my favorite t-shirts that I got when I was living in New Orleans, and if you go to New Orleans, they have something called po' boys. And po' boys are essentially their style of a sub sandwich. They're very, very popular. You can have anything from fried catfish or fried oysters, alligator sausage, etc., so on. But they're po' boys. They're these sub sausages. So there was a shirt that I thought was funny, being a literature nerd, and it was talking about a Poe boy and having Edgar Allan Poe eat a Raven po' boy sandwich. Does that make sense? Anywho, again, weird niche humor, and yes. Let's see. You don't have to worry if you lived in Arth or Aarth. If you die, you will respawn. Hey, respawning. But will it respawn as me, or will it be me 2.0, where it's not actually me, but it's kind of me? That's the respawning thing, and the I have questions. I have lots of questions about that. But, you know, that's nice to know that I'm not necessarily gone for good. At least a version of me potentially can have a second try. Probably you're tripping the next pothole. Man, I'm not really that clumsy, but just giving that example. The other version is the number of the beast at level 0. I don't know. It depends on the day. I don't know. Probably depends on the day. Right now, again, sleep deprived, so might not do well. Talk to me in 2 days. I might feel a little better. But doesn't everybody start at level 0 anyways? So I don't know. It's you because you experienced it. Okay, I like that. Respawning, second lives, reincarnation. Yes. Does anybody read any books that utilize concepts of that reincarnation or respawning? Does anyone have any references? There you go. That would be kind of cool. Again, that's kind of like, is that more of a sci-fi? I guess that could be, depending on respawning, I feel like would be more sci-fi. Reincarnation would be fantasy? I don't know. I need sci-fi authors to let me know terms. Okay. Let's see. What is my best book memory? Best book memory. Oh, tragedy. I have a worse book memory. Best book memory. I don't know. I mean, reading is just such an enjoyment. And what you can get out of reading, even the wildest fantasies or sci-fi, if it just makes you smile, if it engages you emotionally, even in the more tragic emotions, you know, if it really just hits you, then I think that's a very meaningful version of writing. I really like Out of Africa as a non-fantasy book that I read, and it's just because, I think I mentioned this last time, because it's a book written about the author's life and what she actually experienced, and there's such a, it's so fascinating. A woman doing things in a world or at a time when women didn't do a lot of those things, the exploratory era of Africa, and I know that's, if we want to get into the history and the science and all that behind that, we won't need to go on that. But there is some kind of romanticism in that kind of story, so I do like that one, and that book just makes me feel lots of good emotions, and lots of tragic emotions too, and same with the movie. Let's see, generally a sci-fi trope, yeah. Ah, my book, okay, there you go. Yay, fellow authors, I love it. Okay, so, what is your book? What's your name? Keith, there we go, sorry. Words are very tiny on the screen, so I want to know what your book is about. Let me know. But, yeah, no, see, I need to talk to more sci-fi people. I think it was because I approached people who started to do different kind of chats and lives, who are kind of a little more closer to my writing style, because it was, you know, not really sure what to talk about initially, and it was just easier to talk fantasy, because I write fantasy. But sci-fi, I love sci-fi. I haven't read a lot of sci-fi, but man, I will watch a movie and TV show, and I know that's maybe a little hypocritical. I should probably read more sci-fi books. So again, I need to add stuff to my wish list. That's my TBR. Your device, welcome to, okay. Okay, that makes sense. Your device, welcome to, is it Arath or Arath? So hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Again, I was talking to someone about pronunciation. Oh, I think it was a post I did a little bit ago about the kind of the humor of people who write fantasy, sci-fi, these kind of books, and come up with names. and the mispronunciation that people can get from names, and trying to explain how to pronounce. How do authors do that? I incorporate pronunciation guides in the back of my books. They're phonetic versions. I hope they're right. I do use a lot of, again, resources from mythology, and my Viking book does a lot of historical stuff too, and so trying to figure out how to pronounce Icelandic words and Nordic words phonetically when I don't speak either language, very hard. So I still might have some incorrect, but I did my best. Pronunciation guides. I don't know. I think that's kind of, at least as an author now that I've gotten into the publishing bracket and writing bracket, I want people to pronounce them the way I hear them. And I know that's not the case most of the time. It's amazing how that is. Okay, Adam says, I use respawning, sort of, in some of my stories, mostly for AIs who want to become human. Aww. It is such an interesting concept about AIs, and if they can develop emotions and how they interact. Spoiler alert? It might be a spoiler alert. Don't know. One of my series, how about this? I'm not going to say which one, and I'm not going to say how, because I am a high fantasy author. I do incorporate cyborgs and cybernetics at one point. Because I am kind of touching the toes of some of that overlapping of the two realms of sci-fi fantasy. I mean, I have a portal fantasy, so I do portals and wormholes and stuff like that, but I'm dealing with dragons and elves and sorcery and stuff like that. So I consider that an epic fantasy with a sci-fi undertone, but yeah, I have been starting to play with cybernetics, which is fun. This is what happens when most of my college friends growing up way back in the day were engineers. Okay. You are the main character. You connect to a host through a magical world, and this is Keith. Arnth. So, pronounced Arnth, to a fantasy world. Sorry, I'm jumping around. You are the main character. You are connected to a host through a magical world, to a fantasy world through a magical device. And this is in reference to your device. Welcome to Arnth. Arth? There we go. I'm gonna feel like I'm getting closer. Okay. Back. Okay. But I'm here to listen, so I promise I won't go crazy telling about a book. Oh, I don't know. See, here's the thing is, when I do these kind of lives, I love interaction. And so, to not only, I'm sure people want to hear me talk about my book for an hour, but, you know, it's kind of fun to always hear from other authors that are listening, and other readers maybe out there listening/reading some of these things if they're on the live currently, and they may learn about you. Okay, and it's a key part of a noir detective sci-fi story I wrote. Oh, that is Adam, about respawning. Ah, there you go. So, see, I'm learning a lot about sci-fi. I think right now my comfort level is those things I mentioned before, portals/wormholes, and cybernetics. I don't know how much more I would broach the sci-fi realm at currently, but we will see. You never know. And if I do, I feel like at that point, that is the time where I would need a pen name. And I know a lot of authors, the reasons why people use pen names changes. You know, each author has their reasons, their comfort zones. I've kept all my series under my name. And I think for anything that falls into the epic fantasy, currently will use my name. If I broached into some steamy fantasy, I would probably pick up a pen name. If I broached into sci-fi, pick up a pen name. If I did something very different, obviously a pen name. And it's just a lot of work. So right now I think I'm going to stick with epic fantasy for a little longer, because that's just a lot to manage. At least sounds like there's a lot to manage with different pen names, and I don't know, do you use different websites or is it the same? There's just so much. But yeah. closer to... Sorry. That is my mother calling. Thank you, Mama. I will talk to you in 10. Anyhow, should have probably given her a memo. Wait, is there a date for when the Guardian Speaker Series will come out in paperback? Yes! Okay, thank you. Thank you for inquiring. It makes me feel good. Okay, so right now they're all 6, soon to be 7, are available on Kindle, Kindle Unlimited. But starting next month, the date is July 15th. It is, right now there's a box set online, and it's an ebook box set that's under pre-order. And the date that comes out will also be the date the print versions come out. Unfortunately, since as indie going through Amazon, I can't have pre-orders for the print versions, so paperback and hardcover just has to spawn right there. So I will be talking more about that on my feed. That will be again July 15th. Whenever that box set comes out, it will come out as a omnibus version. So the first 4 will be in a collection together. And that's just because my ebook, they're novellas. So they're so small, I wanted them to kind of be bundled together in some kind of sizable manner. So when people get what you pay for, so that's why I've waited, and we'll bundle 4 at a time. So you get those 4. And then probably early next year, because I have a lot coming down the pipe this year, will be the next bundle 4, and at 16 potentially in total. I'm trying to put out 4 a year, so in a couple of years they'll be done. Yay! Exciting? I'm excited. I love that series. But yes, lots of news to fill everybody in on in the near future, but one thing at a time, because I don't want people to be overwhelmed, because I feel overwhelmed constantly right now. Yeah, I know, the phone calls. That's my parents trying to call in. I think they think that it's glitching. It's live. I'll explain that. Anyhow, okay, let's see. Yeah, I'm so sorry about the phone call. I haven't read the series yet, but I can ask if you wrote the Guardian Speakers series from a point of view of a scholar or a practitioner. Okay, so the Guardian Speaker I wrote, the reason why I wrote it is I have grown more and more in love with Norse mythology above the other mythos. Now, I love them all, and that's why the Jed Chronicles, we deal with all sorts. We go some Chinese lore, Japanese lore, India. We're going to delve into some stuff from like more of the Aztec, Incan stuff way down the line. I deal with kind of some of the voodoo topics in one of them, and hoodoo and all kinds of stuff like that. So it is fun to get into all sorts, but I really love Norse mythology, and I have an entire bookshelf dedicated to sagas and Eddas and history of the Vikings and people like that, because historically I love ancient civilizations, and the Viking culture, I think it just went hand in hand. And so the more I researched about one and fell in love with it, the more I was fascinated about the other. So for me, it is an dark, epic fantasy. I wrote it to be, you know, it's an immersive story. You're going to have fun. You're going to see through the 9 realms, enjoy all that. There was so much research that has been put into the series. So much. Starting with some very obscure lore. For instance, the main character's, her ability is to see Fulgir. And they are animal-shaped guardian spirits. They're actually one part of a human self, because you have 4 parts. You have the body, the mind, and soul. Fulgir, which are the animal guardian spirits, and they kind of serve as like your conscience and moral guide sometimes. And then Hummingdir, which are your personal luck that comes down through family line. So starting with some very obscure Nordic myth, and then later, far later, that's when you're going to see more of the Odin and the Loki and glimpse kind of them along route. But I kind of like more of the creature side of things versus the deity side of thing. Okay, let's see. I'm sorry. I don't know. I will probably have to log off a little early since my folks keep calling in, and I'm assuming that means there might be a crisis. But let me see. Any last questions along the way? Yay, I'm so glad you're looking forward to it. And like I said, I will be tagging, I don't know if I will have your stuff, but if you message me mentioning if anybody's interested in like knowing about the print or audiobooks when they come out, if they're not released that way, message me in one of my videos, and I'm trying to compile a list of handles that when they release, I can tag people and say, hey, it's out, if people really are interested. So if you do that, it'll help me reach out to you personally when they are released. Okay, so the last thing to note about that is, since y'all are listening to the live, so I will let y'all know the sneak peek news. So for Kindle, and I'm sorry, it's only for Kindle people, but if you know someone who's a Kindle person and likes the ebooks and might be interested, the first book of The Guardian Speaker will be free for anybody who has a Kindle device and does those ebooks for 5 days. Starting, I think it's the 17th of this month, and going for 5 days. Do the count number math. But it's gonna be live. It's gonna be free, not live, free for 5 days. Okay, so that's exciting news. So that's literally the first time I've actually announced that for anybody. So that's exciting. But I will be posting more about that, and actually more of a concrete little video post in the days to come. Okay, so thank you all for joining today. Sorry, again, I ramble. I do. It's the way my brain works sometimes. And I will be live later on this week, Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with an author, David Green. He writes dark fantasy, urban fantasy, all that kind of stuff. And we'll just be chatting and talking about bookish stuff. Until next time, guys, as the Norse say, Skål.